So what is required for the new normal? One of the first questions that comes to mind for the new normal is, are you prepared for these unexpected or unpreparable events? How do you prepare for combinations of events that can approach you in a very nonlinear fashion? This requires a complete flexibility of people, but also of your systems. So when we think about that, we need to have a well-architected technology structure. This requires a technology stack that recognizes that data sits in multiple places through the organization, that you're never going to get all of your data into one great system that handles your processes, your efficient transactions, and manages that well. There's always going to be a state of change, and data will sit inside your organization in different formats and different systems. And you will also need to access data from other locations. So without going into the entire technology stack in depth, let me just explain some of the key components that is required to confront nonlinear threats with a properly architected treasury technology stack. The first layer is data. What data is needed? Where will that reside? How will that be used and consumed within different systems for processing transactions, as well as managing risk and performing analysis and reporting? So the first component is data. The second is connectivity. Where does your data sit? How will you need access to that? And how will that be managed? So connecting to external sources, perhaps through SWIFT or through direct connections, might be one component. And similarly, within your organization, what data do you need access to determine exposures, to determine counterweighting measures that you may have, and enact proper activities based upon those connections. Those connections could also be to execute transactions, trades, funds movement, etc. The third level is your systems and your process support. These would be banking systems, treasury management systems, trading platforms. So having those systems that manage and control the processes lead us to efficiency in a well-controlled environment. The fourth level is reporting, getting the right type of data out that allows you to manage what's going on a standard basis. Everything from operational, how many of a certain type of activity was performed, what is the cost of your bank fees, or more elaborate activities such as covenant compliance, counterparty management, diversification levels in your investment portfolio. The final level, the fifth level in your architected treasury technology stack, is analytics, and that feeds back into action. This is the ability to flexibly identify and analyze new situations that have emerged. It's more than just saying here's a change in the interest rate curve, or a couple of flexes that have occurred, or the convexity is changing. Here's what may have occurred with commodity pricing. It goes beyond that, because there can be other scenarios that you want to be able to manage and run through your analytic module ahead of time to see what that does to liquidity or to your overall risk scenario. Then you also have to have it set up, your structure architected so that you can bring in new elements of data to calibrate your risk, to look at other constituent data to see items such as industry, location information, and you need to be able to calibrate your exposures using different methods. And when we use different rates, whether they're predictive scores, early indicator scores, historical scores, or analytical scores, those need to be understood in context, particularly because when the market becomes very troublesome, some of those sources of data they go quiet, they become silent. The data is not publicly available, and then the measurement you are using to monitor your risk disappears. So it's vitally important that you understand the technology stack and the data that goes into the stack.